it is a huge honor today to be interviewing Geoffrey Wan, who's started off in Vancouver, then was in America, and then was in Australia, and never came back because you met the love of your life. That is
That's
just the.
it.
So how's the love of your life going?
She's doing really, really well. She's still asleep right now, but that's cool.
So it's 1 p.m. on a Thursday. It's my lunch here at 1 p.m. and you're 7 a.m. in Australia
That's
tomorrow.
it.
So we're
Yep, the
Wednesday
day
here and
after.
it's already Thursday.
Yep.
So you were requested. I had townies sending me request to interview you because here I'm this old guy and I'm interviewing a bunch of, I'm 53, older, interviewing a bunch of 50, 60, 70-year-olds who have done, 10,000 root canals or implants or whatever. And a lot of townies were podcast fans were saying, talk to someone younger, Howard. Talk to someone who's been out the first 10 years and talk about, because a lot of people who devour these new podcasts, they're not old dogs like me. And most fans of the show are like your age. In fact, you're kind of old for the fans of my show. I mean,
I would be.
I would say the most common email I get is, oh yeah, we sit in the back row at dental school and we have a boring lecture, a boring instructor, and we just listen to your podcast or take Dental Town Online CE or whatever. So I wanted to interview a young dentist, and of course I wanted to be perfect, and I can tell by your haircut that you're just perfect. You're bald and beautiful dentist. So I want you to talk about life as the first 10 years out. What is it like being life of a young dentist? And in
Sure.
saying that, I also want to preface it that, it's easy for people to see that difference in boy girl or ethnicity or whatever, but it's really hard to see the difference in how does a baby boomer like me think versus a millennial or a generation Xer or a senior citizen. And a lot of older dentists, when they're hiring associates, they don't realize that your generation of kids, you don't think the same as baby
No,
boomers. So
no.
so tell me what it's like to be young and 10 years out, and what was it like going from dental school to 10 years out, and what tips could you give all these kids that are juniors and seniors in dental school, or they've only been out a year, they're looking for their first job, and the older guys should listen to this because you're trying to hire these young kids and you got to connect with them. So take it and
Yep.
run.
Sure. Well, basically, I'm at the tail end of the Generation X and at the probably right before the Millennial generation.
And explain that
My
to our viewers what that means. Some people might not know what that means.
Well, from what I know, the Generation X are usually the right after the baby boomers, which is right after the World War II. So generally, we were still kind of hardworking. We still had dreams of having a career that would last us for 30 years, and then retiring after that. Whereas the millennials are the ones that are switching careers every 5 years, and are more focused on the now and experiencing pleasure today rather than putting it in, working hard, and hoping to secure a future for tomorrow. Would that kind of make sense?
Yeah, well, and millennials are people who supposedly come of age at the turn of the century, 2000. They were getting their car and they're just kind of come of age at the year 2000. And you know what? I was 50 years old before I asked when I turned 50, I realized my dad and my two grandfathers all died at age 60. And I thought, for half a century, I'm just crushing it 12 hours a day, 7 days a week for delayed gratification later. And I thought to myself, you know what, dude, you're 50. You ought to just slow down a little bit. And then you see the millennials looking at how their parents live, like me. And they're
Yep.
saying, we're all going to die anyway. We're all going to be lowered down into the same size coffin and the same deal. Why are you doing this? And so I think you guys are more moderate, which can
Yep.
look to older people as lazy. I mean,
Yeah,
is
because
that rude what I just said?
no,
Or
not at all, not at all, not
and
at all,
just
not
two different ways of looking at it. And they say
absolutely.
Japan is the most stark contrast because they have the lowest birth rate of any advanced country. I mean, they don't even have a zero point 0.9 kids per family. And when they ask those kids why, they go, look at my dad. I mean, he all he's done is work for Toyota all day, every day, his whole life until he dropped dead of a heart attack. And I just, my life wasn't born or Toyota or Honda or Lexus. I mean, there's more to life than making a Lexus.
Absolutely, even though that's not a bad way to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, coming from Chinese immigrant parents, I mean, you've spoke about this before. Usually, the children of immigrant parents to, North America end up just getting a lot of pressure from their parents because they want to secure a better future for their children. And so growing up, it was always you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer or one of those, professionals. And
I still think the funniest scene ever was on Family Guy. Did you see it when the little kid's in there playing with a toy and his dad opens the door and says, "Are you doctor yet?" And he goes, Dad, I'm 9. And he turns around, he's all mad, he slams the door.
Well, why not? It's very true, and I'm really glad that my parents did everything they did for me.
Where were you born and raised? Were you?
I was born and raised in Vancouver. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
you were okay. So but where were your parents born and raised?
Hong Kong.
Oh, Hong Kong.
Yeah, so they're basically left their homeland to for a better future in this wonderful place called Canada, which is very different back then.
Did they leave at the time that Hong Kong was handed back to mainland China?
China? No, they left in the mid late 70s, where there was a pretty big migration back then, but I think there was a much bigger one in the mid 90s when Hong Kong was just about to be handed back to China.
And that was because a 100-year lease from the United Kingdom expired. Was it a 100-year lease?
It was a 100-year lease. Yeah.
And what year did that expire?
1997.
1997, and that's when Vancouver really got a massively huge Chinese population.
Influx of Hong Kong immigrants. Shortly after that, it was the Taiwanese, which was awesome. And then, mid 2000s, since then, it's been a lot of mainlanders, as in mainland China.
Mm-hmm.
As they've seen like this tremendous amount of value in, just being in a really beautiful city like Vancouver.
So which of the 3 countries you lived in is a bigger melting pot? I mean, you lived in 3 melting pots: United States, Canada, and Australia.
Yep.
I mean, you go to some countries like Poland, they're 98% Polish.
Yes.
There's not that many countries like the United Kingdom, United States, Canada, Australia, where it's a melting pot. But of those 3 countries, what ranked them as far as most melted?
Most melted, probably Canada.
Yeah.
And based on my limited experience in America, I mean, I've lived in smaller towns, and I've also just spent, just a weekend course here and there in San Francisco. The big cities are certainly melting pots, absolutely, in America. Australia, melting pot / mosaic. There's certainly very, very small cultural pockets. We got little suburbs that's filled with Koreans and Vietnamese and Greeks and the Middle Easterns. So you
just covered all the food groups, so we're good. I can't believe in Australia that they don't have a Chipotle's. My brother just moved to Sydney a year ago. Paul, his name's Paul Farran. Will you look him up?
I sure will.
Email me, Howard at dentaltown.com, and I'll reply back.
Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 36.
Okay, he's 37.
Oh, no kidding.
And seriously, Sydney, Australia is the only city that, lots of beautiful cities. I've lived there, but I don't know if I'd move there. I'd want to vacation there, like Rio and Paris and London. But Sydney's the only city that every single time I go down, I just went down there last month, lectured in Melbourne, Brisbane, Sydney. Every single time I thought, what the hell are you going back to Phoenix for? Your brother's here. Yep. I mean, it's just such a rich life. I mean, every block has a restaurant, a bar, and a band, and a bookstore. And I mean, you don't need a car. And my brother didn't even buy a car when he got there.
Oh,
and my suburb where I live in Phoenix, I could go out in the street in front of my house, lay down in the middle of the road and die, and probably no one would know it for 3 days.
Yeah, Sydney's pretty awesome. It's just one of those like huge cities where there's great things about it and there's not so great things about it. And I'm pretty sure like people from big cities like New York and San Francisco can say the same thing as well. The traffic can be horrible. The people can be, not the greatest, but at the same time, when we get people like you, Howard, gracing your presence at our cities, this is the place to be. This is where everything's all happening. So Sydney is awesome.
Unlike an awesome city like London, where it's a rocking hot city, if you're there in the summer, But you go to London in February, you just wish you would
Yep.
have stayed at home. And Sydney is like a London, but with amazing weather.
With absolutely,
I mean,
absolutely. Phoenix is pretty awesome too.
yeah, Phoenix is. I mean, when I left Kansas, of course, I was the armpit of America, so anything would have been better. You know, anything, anywhere I would have gone would have been an upgrade. But my God, yeah, it was my first pick. I mean, but I would move to Sydney in a second. But I got four boys here.
Absolutely. Well, whenever you're ready, Howard, you could always have a second home here.
Right on.
And go for jogs with David Moffat.
So tell me this. So everybody wants to know: is the millennials like you? Let's just call you a millennial to keep it
Sure.
simple.
All
I is the millennial like you? Lot of demographers are wondering, and this is a big, huge economic question, even with the Department of Labor in America. Are you guys going to work and see as many patients over your career as guys like me?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. No, no, no. And here's why. I think, that there's this crushing desire to work, to work, to work, and that work ethic has been drilled into the culture of the baby boomers, because that's just how it's done. That's just how it's done. That's just how it's done. Whereas nowadays, thanks to social media like Instagram, Facebook, which is splashing things into your immediate forefront, you're seeing all these people having a great time, going traveling, eating out. They're always taking pictures of food, and having all this great stuff that are very, very pleasurable that you could experience now. And so, it certainly takes the focus off of gotta work, gotta work, gotta work to, hey, I gotta live and enjoy life.
I find it very offensive that you're wearing a Seattle Seahawks shirt in front of an
I thought you might.
Arizona Cardinals fan. I mean, that is just, how are you going to insult me worse than that shirt?
You guys are doing great this season so far.
We are, but we always do great until our quarterback gets tackled in the knee, and then the season's over. They might as well just cancel their mini games. What should an old guy like me think when you're hiring a young kid who's a millennial? And how do I attract a great millennial? How do I create working environment conditions that will retain them? Because attracting them's one skill, but if you don't retain them, there's no value added. How could these older dentists that want to that have a dental office, they always complain about all these corporate chains. I'm like, well, you know what the corporate chains
and I work
do
for
well?
one.
Yeah, and you know what they do well? They hire kids. And you know what the older dentists do? There's 168 hours in a week, and their office is open Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5. That's 32 hours. So 19% of the week it's utilized. 81% of the week, their rent, mortgage, equipment bill, computer, insurance, malpractice, nothing's utilized. And the patients are calling in with toothaches and questions. They don't even track. So they don't even know what kind
After
of
5
demand's
p.m.
coming in. Yeah, so how does an old guy who sits there and says, I need some help, I want to hire a young millennial, how could he attract and retain a millennial?
Okay, well, then we have to figure out, okay, what does a millennial want? All right, a millennial, and I'm guessing here, wants to be able to do great work. They want to do good, but at the same time, they also want to be able to have the freedom to take CE, take vacations as they please. They also want mentorship. They want to be able to learn from those before them, so they can grow their skills, grow their capacity, grow the way they think. And so, a lot of the older docs are thinking business minded. If I'm closed on a Friday, I want this place to be open on a Friday. I'll stick an associate there, which may be fine if the associate's nice and has had a few years under the belt, a bit more independent, doesn't really require the mentorship. But what I found from my first real job since I got here 4 years ago with one of my bosses, who's been an absolute fantastic mentor, is that we were able to discuss cases together. Dentistry can be a very, very lonely profession. And with stuff like Dentaltown, which is oh my God, I can't believe you got over 200,000 people there. And, honestly, I can't even believe that I'm here talking to you, Howard.
And we started in 1998. Were you even born in 1998? How old were you in 1998?
I just finished high school, so I was about 19. Yeah, I was 19.
And that's why I started, because I was professionally lonely. I hired an associate right when I got out of school because I just thought it was, I went from 120 rocking hot, cool people in dental school to being
Yep.
alone in a box. I mean,
Yep.
that was
Surrounded
like,
by yeah,
oh,
surrounded by two or three women.
yeah. Well, I grew up with five sisters, so I was used to pain and suffering. And that was a joke. Did anybody catch that joke? Um, but no. So I yeah, and I didn't even know what I wanted to associate, but I hired Bob Savage because he was my same age, and we had
Yep.
this little clique of all these dentists that were our same age, and
Yep.
all the fun thoughts I can think of those first 10 years was the interactions with these young dentists my age, and I started Dental Town because I thought it was professionally isolated. I just wanted to show an X-ray and a picture to somebody who had done 1,000 of these things, and I'd done
Yep.
50. What's going on? And so yeah, so I
Yeah.
actually made it for myself, and that's probably why it worked. That's probably why it worked because I didn't need any market research. I knew this would really help me,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
since I was a
Exactly.
dentist, and it helped the other dentist.
Yep. Yep. And so, yeah, what else for millennials? Educational opportunities.
Okay. I'm gonna go back to specific questions. Is a dentist
Sure.
more likely to attract a millennial if he's got a bunch of shiny objects like a CAD cam and a BioLace laser and a CBCT? Do toys attract and retain him, or are they not really toy driven?
Uh, well, you can see millennials with their iPads, their MacBook Airs, their iPhones. They're pretty gadget driven. They can be, yes. That's not to say that that's going to be the key thing that attracts a millennial, but that certainly is one of the parts of the ingredient to the secret cake that will, give them the millennial that, like, ooh, I want to go for that. In Sydney, it's a bit of a different story where I'm pretty sure you've heard, there's this oversupply of dentists because, now that we've got more dental schools that are graduating more students and recently we've just stopped taking in internationally trained dentists from outside countries because before 10 years ago there was a shortage, not necessarily in Sydney but Australia wide and in more the rural areas, but now they realize, wait, there's too many of them now. And
But is it fair to say that whenever politicians see lack of dentists in the rural areas, they say let's make a lot more dentists, but it doesn't necessarily mean a lot of dentists are going to go out to the outback. It means there's just going to be more dentists in Sydney. Is that fair to say?
more in the capital cities, so Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne, maybe Perth, maybe Adelaide. But most of the time, people are going to want to stay close or within the capital cities, which is, this is the place to be.
I
However, yeah,
uh,
go ahead.
Perth is my, no offense, but Perth is my favorite city in Australia.
Why is that not offensive? That's awesome.
I mean, it's just for those of you who don't know Australia, China, and the United States are all three the same size in geography. China's got 1.3 billion, America's got 0.3 billion, Australia's only got 20 million. So most of the people are just in this little strip of coast, and Melbourne and Sydney and Brisbane, but you have to cross the whole area equal to the United States or China. And then in this little corner, there's this little quaint city called Perth. And it is so, I mean, Australia is already on the other side of the world. Perth is on the other side of 90% of the people of Australia, wouldn't you say?
Yep, yep,
And
absolutely.
my God, they're so out there so far. It's kind of like they just culturally evolved, just more unique, and the
Yep.
restaurants and the architecture. And I mean, my God, is that a cool city?
I still gotta go. I haven't been there yet. I've been there pretty much everywhere else. I've been to I worked in Alice Springs for 6 months. That's the Red Center, where the next that big giant red rock.
Right.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. But Perth is still on my to-do list or to-go place.
Talk about when you got out of school, the importance of like study clubs or dental societies or podcasts or books or online. What do you think? What do you think helped develop you looking back that you would tell a young kid do this, and you'll be a better, faster, higher quality, happier, or healthier dentist quicker.
Sure. There's not one single thing that's going to do it. It's a multiple of all these little ingredients. Just like, why does a cake or a cupcake taste great? It's not because of one ingredient. It's because of multiple ingredients and how they're put together. And so, based on my journey so far, I did being an Australian-trained dentist, I had to do 2 years of postgraduate residency in the States. Well, I spent 1 year in Youngstown, Ohio, and the other year in rural Washington State, called a little town called Othello. And that was fantastic, working in those community health clinics in hospital and being able to just really refine the clinical skills in a semi-supervised environment. I mean, that's one of the things that allowed me to get really, really good at taking out wisdom teeth, and also really, really good at treating children. Lots of stainless steel crowns. And so to beef up your clinical skills, you can go to private practice. However, I think you're going to get much more hands-on exercise in a community-based health clinic, like a hospital or like doing a residency. Study clubs are excellent.
Where
Yeah.
were those two cities at?
Youngstown, Ohio, go Buckeyes, and Othello, Washington, which is like about 45 minutes from the Tri-Cities. I don't know if you've ever heard of Kennewick, Pasco, Richland.
The takeaway from what I'm hearing, because you always hear these dentists saying, well, you know, it's easy to get an associate if you're in LA or San Fran, but I'm out in the middle of, you know, Timbuktu. But you know
Yep.
what? You went along, you traveled 1,000 miles from Vancouver to find an associate in that city I'd never heard of. And the bottom line is, looks like when dentists are trying to attract an associate for a millennial, they know they're rocking hot. If they can do these certain skills, they should be saying on, instead of just saying associate needed, you know, Thursdays, Friday, and Saturday, they should be a long paragraph, kind of like Claudia Morado consultant was saying. It should be like an online dating profile.
Absolutely.
And you should sit there and say, you know, you come work, like for instance, I could brag. I can pull any 4 wisdom teeth in under 10 minutes. And usually I can pull them all under 5. Okay. And so if you sit there and say, you know, you come with me, I swear to God, you'll be able to take out any wisdom teeth there is. Or if a dentist is like really good at this or that, they should be creating an online dental profile, because it sounds like, you know, the question isn't, well, this one pays me 30% and half the lab bill, but the other one will pay me 35% and pay the lab bill. Which one should I do? That's not what you're saying at all. You haven't even mentioned money or percentage or anything. It sounds like you should be.
I got paid peanuts my first couple of years out in residency. Some residencies don't even pay you. But that's what I had to do. Well, I didn't do that for the sake of that's what I should do. I did it because I had to get a license to work in America. But with that said, I would have done it again. I would have repeated and done the same thing again, you know, if I had the choice. Because I think,
So the classified ads on Dentaltown are a lot of my friends that are on Dentaltown. They're always on the message board. They don't understand. They don't even understand the website because they just know their behavior. Do you know that on Dentaltown, all those people on the message boards that have posted 4 million times, do you know if 100 dentists go on Dentaltown, not even half of them go to the message boards?
Yeah.
More people go to the rest of the online magazine, classified ads, you know, industry, you know, just the rest of the website. And on those classified ads, you're right. Most of those older, what's older than the baby boom? What are they called? Just senior citizens or?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Most of those older dentists, they just say, yeah, associate needed in Youngstown, Ohio. And then they'll say the salary range and they should have a picture. And they should be saying, you know, what are they good at? They got their fellowship in this or their mastership in that, or you come work with me for a year. You're really going to learn these things that I do. And then some millennial might be thinking, God, I would love to take that job just to learn all that under a mentor. Yep. And that's the soft stuff that really matters, not the hard, just money. Money's the answer. What's the question? You want 32% or 33%? And I think that's where Heartland is crushing it, because Rick Workman out of Effingham, Illinois, who started that thing, he has massive continuing education for his docs. I mean, they have courses on learning how to do implant and basically anything. If you go work at that big chain, I think they got 1,500 offices. I mean, you can really learn how to do any skill set you need. So that might be Rick Workman's secret sauce of attracting millennials. He's probably listening to this podcast saying, Howard, I knew that 5 years ago.
Yeah. And then, after residency, I pretty much, being a Canadian, I had to get whatever job would offer me a visa. And usually that would be the corporates. And so I ended up working for this corporate chain. People can say all they want about it, but it
What was it
allowed
called?
me to do Aspen Dental.
Okay, Aspen. And what
Yeah.
would it? And they're headquartered out of New York, aren't they? Kind of near
Yes,
Buffalo,
Syracuse. Yeah,
Syracuse,
Syracuse, New
New
York.
York. Okay, sorry, I
Yeah.
said Buffalo. I was.
And I'll tell you what sort of competitive advantage they got over us mom and pop private
Who's the
practices.
CEO of that?
Oh goodness, I know his name was Dan something, but that was like 5 years ago.
I mean, is he the founder?
I think yes.
Can you email him and say I want a podcast interview him?
I could. They generally try to
I
stay.
did the founder of Heartland, Rick Workman, and I think
Yep,
that thing got more views than anything I've done.
yep.
I try to get Stephen Thorne out of Pacific Dental Services, and he just replies back LOL. But I'd like to try that Aspen.
Sure, sure.
But you're right. Corporate dentistry, lots of negatives because it's competition. Nobody wants
Yep.
competition. But you said it worked for you.
It worked for me. It allowed
And,
me to refine my surgical skills because we were doing lots of dentures, lots of extractions of like hopeless teeth, and treating a lot of dentally reclusive patients that were just didn't have a dental home. So the ones that got treated, they got what they needed. The ones that came in, realized it wasn't for them. Guess what? They went to my dentist next door, and it's like, oh, I'll go here instead. So as much as people want to hate on the corporates, really it increases the public awareness of dentistry and makes people more likely to go out and seek some dental services.
well, I just can't understand when you look at a country like America with 330 million people. They always talk about the new car that got some award, some magazine award, best this or that. Do they not
Yep,
realize that 70% of cars sold in the United States are used cars and only
yep,
30% of cars purchased are new? And then just at that top 30% new, you got low cost Chevy, then more money Pontiac, more money Olds, more money Buick. They don't see market segmentation. They
no,
don't understand that this country has 100 million people that don't have 2,500 bucks for a root canal, billet, and crown to save a
yep,
molar.
that's it. So where was I going with this? And
Aspen Dental.
yeah, Aspen, with 1 out of 2 people in America having seen a dentist in the last year, that's 50% of the population. That's pretty much free market. They're the ones that seek care when they have a toothache, or they're the ones that just been hiding because like they're scared. And their marketing is really, really effective at giving people hope. When I watch it, it's like, dang, I want to go to Aspen Dental. I don't know if you've seen the ads over in
Do
Phoenix.
you have any of their ads on YouTube?
Probably.
You know what? Start a thread on Dental Town saying, I just did a podcast with Howard and you wanted me to post some
Yep.
Aspen Dental, because a lot of times those ads are on YouTube, and
Yep.
that would be great, because if you're saying their marketing is effective, and what
Yep.
I've noticed on the marketing is now that everyone's gone to cable. It used to be back in the day dentists couldn't advertise on TV because you'd have to buy an ad for the whole city or the whole county. And
Yep.
now when I'm watching football game, that there's ads coming in just targeted, so you can get on cable and you can run a dental ad just for your little area, my little area, Phoenix. It's Phoenix, Arizona, but everyone calls it Awatuki. And
Yep.
there's just stores just advertising on TV. So I'd like to see those TV ads.
Yeah, sure, sure. And what's also brilliant about them, they've got a 24-hour call center.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
if you see that ad in Phoenix, you're going to call that number that you see on the bottom of the screen. It's going to go to some central call centers, probably still in New York State, and they're going to route. And they're basically going to say, "Oh, you're from Phoenix. Okay, fantastic. Your nearest location is this, and the doctor that serves the patients there is that name, and we could book you in, Wednesday at how does 10 o'clock sound?"
Yeah, Rick Workman at Effingham, his headquarters in a town of 10,000 called Effingham, Illinois, and he says the call center's limit is on hiring. They'll hire anybody that walks through that door and train them up to speed because it's so hot. And then for the free enterprise private practices, look at the academy, the call center, Jay Geyer's, the scheduling institute.
Oh yeah,
I mean
yeah.
that's on fire. I mean anybody that uses those guys, I mean training their front desk to answer the calls better. Oh yeah, answering I mean the only connection you have to the rest of the world is that incoming phone, and usually it's answered by someone with no training, and it's usually only answered Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So that's 29% of the week, and then 81% of the week it's just it goes to a voicemail.
Yep, and also like not to mention lunchtime or when the phone's currently occupied or when the receptionist is currently either booking a next appointment or receiving a payment. And so, having the phones answered and being able to communicate with the outside world is super important when it comes to just being able to continually grow your practice. And so that's a major opportunity for most private practices.
So what? So practicing dentistry in the United States, Canada, Australia, for a guy like me who's lectured in all those countries a lot, is dentistry pretty much the same in those three countries? I mean, is there much difference between anything to do with being a dentist in those three countries?
I think they're pretty similar. I hate to say it, but it's pretty similar. People want what they want. People are people, and I think one of the things that makes one of the things I figured out after 10 years is we go to dental school to learn how to fix teeth. But the first 10 years of real world experience has taught me that, being a dentist, you're basically working with people. You have to know how to work well with people. Your patients, your teammates, your employers, everybody. And so, the last few years I've been, continually refining my people skills. I've taken up reading. I never thought I'd read again since high school or since dental school textbooks. But, I've gotten to the habit of reading, going through audiobooks. Just like you said, it's a hugely growing market. I've gotten back to, feeling paper in books, and I go through a book every 2 weeks now. And it's been awesome. It's just, allows me to think better, see things from a different perspective. And I could kind of tell from patients' body language, they're more open to talk to me rather than be scared of me because I'm going to invade their personal space and hurt them.
Well, one of the things that I love the most about being a dentist, I didn't even realize it was over, but lecturing in 50 countries, I've spent the night in so many dentist homes, and what's really cool is dentists are all readers. Like right behind you is all those books, and it seems like if I spend the night or go to someone's home and they're not a dentist, physician, or lawyer, they don't read any nonfiction. I mean, it might be Louis L'Amour books or 50 Shades of Grey or magazines, but they just don't. Dentists, it's the coolest profession for me because all my homies have 8 years of college and they've all read 100 nonfiction books. They're all readers. So you can have a discussion on anything, and they're intelligent and well read on pretty damn near any subject you go after. And that's the most fun for me for being a dentist is I just dig hanging out with dentists. Especially compared to how I grew up, where it was all farming, and their only two subjects were wheat and Catholicism. You know what I mean? That was the only thing they talked about: the Catholic Church and farming, and it's just so cool that you're a reader. So what are some? So what books would you recommend? Because I agree. The dentist is going to come out of school and think, if I just like, I'll give you the best analogy. You thought in undergrad, if you could get A's in geometry, trig, and calculus, that would be the secrets to the universe, and you'd live happily ever after. Now I've been a dentist for 28 years. I've never used any math I've ever was taught in geometry, trig, calculus, integrals, derivatives. None of that was used. But when they come out of school, they think, well, I'll be successful if I learn how to bone graft and learn all about BM, and they devour all this technical stuff, but the patients aren't going to grade you on any of the technical stuff. It's all going to be the soft, touchy peel. So what books would you recommend to get this person who was only accepted into dental school because they got A's in physics, and now they're entering a people business where what they sell is invisible. Nobody knows if they need a root canal or not. No one knows after the root canal if you did it right or not. So what skills would you recommend? What books or podcasts or courses would you recommend on how you've developed your softer people skills?
Sure.
And was shaving your head a big part of winning people over? Don't you think when you're bald and beautiful that people just love you more?
Yeah, it's cool. They're all supportive of it. They all think it's cool. I mean, just since Michael Jordan, right?
I know. He was Michael Jordan. But what would you recommend?
In terms of books, I mean, before you even start reading, you just have to it's a change in mindset and attitude, right? Because I didn't like reading. Back in the day, I thought it's like, oh, what a waste of time. Oh, I get bored. Oh, I don't have attention. Get attention. All right. I think one of the biggest game changers for me was Hal Elrod's The Miracle Morning, because it laid out a blueprint for 1 hour of time when you wake up before everybody else does, to silently meditate, gain mental clarity, to just tell yourself, like Muhammad Ali, I'm the greatest, I'm the greatest, I'm the greatest. And you keep telling yourself that until you believe it, because when you believe it, it's going to more likely to happen. Because if you tell yourself, oh, I'm just a lowly dentist, oh, I'm nobody, oh, you're going to believe that, and that's what you're going to be. To read, even if it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 5 pages, 10 pages, at least you're reading something, especially on the subject of personal growth. Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People is a classic. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, also a classic. But when you read, you're going to learn stuff. You're going to incorporate it into your mental focus, and you're going to mentally grow from it. To write, to journal. I've been journaling ever since reading this Hal Elrod book. I can't believe it, but it's just amazing.
What's the name of that book? Hal
Hal Elrod. Yep, Elrod, Elrod.
And what's the name of Hal Elrod's book?
The Miracle Morning.
The Miracle Morning.
Yeah, it's a relatively short read. I think it's less than 150 pages. Pretty easy to read.
But does it have a lot of big pictures on each page?
Unfortunately, no. Those were my favorite kind of books, and I get to read those to myself now.
That's why my favorite restaurant is the IHOP, because the whole menu is just big pictures. I don't like those fancy restaurants where you got to read and you can't see and you got to get out your.
And they're in a weird language that you can't pronounce. Yeah. Like, what's up with that?
So what do you tell these dentists who, when you tell them to think positive, they go, I do think positive. I positively think all my patients are assholes.
Yeah.
How do you turn that mindset around?
It's honestly, Howard, I don't know how I did it. I used to be really, really negative about everything, and that's why I was like Mr. Sour guy. I was Mr. Angry guy. But it got to the point where the problem was looking at me in the mirror. And one day, a lot of people are going to figure that out. Until they do, they're going to keep living in that kind of negative space, that kind of world. They're more than likely to be one of those 9 out of 10 people who aren't on Dental Town, who aren't, communicating with each other, who are kind of feeling like I'm trapped, I'm all alone on this little dental island, and I don't know, what to do. It's a very lonely place. But it can be better, when you decide that, okay, there's more out there, and I can do this.
So do you think the big turnaround was from that hot little Australian woman you found? Was that a big part of your attitude change? Is that what you're recommending, that we all fly, if we got a bad attitude, we fly to Sydney and meet a hot little Aussie girl?
Fly to Sydney and meet, there's heaps of hot little Aussie
And it's going to be very difficult for me to say this, and it's very politically incorrect, but I'll tell you what, how dentists view patients as customers also varies massively between countries. There are countries where the dentists think that if a patient asks them a question, you're insulting them.
Yep.
And you're just like lecturing, they're like, are you kidding me? These are customers. They pay your bills. They give you money. I'm a doctor. I'm a doctor. And I know what's best. And I'm not going to explain to this person who knows nothing. And I'm just like, oh my God. I mean, where do you even start? Do you agree that some of these countries are more same thing with their assistant and their hygienist? They talk down, well, you do this or you'll be fired. I'm like, you don't that's not how you talk to someone. No, and in fact, I want to start a course thinking, I think the average dentist could double their income if on the weekends they took a job as a bartender and just learned how to talk to drunk strangers at a bar. You know what I mean? If you could just loosen up and have a few beers and talk to people drinking at a bar all night, that skill would probably make you more money than going to Pankey, Coyce, and Spear all combined times 3.
Yeah, I was thinking about that before our chat this morning. Pankey, Coyce, and Spear, fantastic clinicians, fantastic educators, fantastic facility. How many people go back to their practices and end up doing like full mouth, veneer cases or full mouth rehab type cases?
There were 2.
Not me.
There were 2. I have both their names.
Yeah, not me, but some people do, and that's fantastic. I think what would be better is just helping dentists just be more human rather than I'm a doctor, you're not. And you're spot on, Howard. Some countries do still have that mentality. I see the patients from those countries. They come to see me and they're like, wow, no one's ever talked to me like a person before. That, it's always like, you got this and this. You need to do this and this. Okay, doctor. Like, what? You get a choice. You get a say. Okay, this is your mouth. This is your teeth. This is your life. This is your decision. It's my job just to let you know this is what's going on, and these are your options. This is what I think you should do. And it's just a different way that they're being communicated to, and they love it. And because of that, they stay loyal, or they're more likely to tell a friend about you.
Now, I want to ask you a question that I hear. A lot of how I think. A lot of people ask me, well, why do you think that, or why do you think that? Because I listen, I read what the dentists are posting on Dental Town, and
Yep.
I pretty much only hang out. I mean, I got 4 kids and dentists. That's pretty much my world. You know what I mean? I hardly ever am with non-dentists, and I see this all the time. You're sitting at a bar, and the 30-year-old dentist is saying, well, I have 57 Yelp reviews, and one of your biggest problem is, you don't have good Yelp reviews and all this stuff. And all the dentists 50 and older are looking like, dude, no one looks at, you look at a Yelp review to go to a restaurant. 50 and older, they don't look at Yelp. It's non-existent. 30 and under dentists think that Yelp is a big thing. Do you think millennials use Yelp more than baby boomers and senior citizens?
Of course, of course.
See, you didn't even have to think about it. You're just like,
I don't have to think about that. I know my wife, whenever she wants to see a
So does that
restaurant,
go down
she's
as
gonna
the
yell.
dumbest question I've ever asked on a podcast?
That is not a dumb question. That's absolutely very relevant.
So I want you to talk to the 3 guys listening on this podcast that are over 50, and I'm one of them. Talk about Yelp or Google reviews and what it means to your generation. Talking to older guys who I mean, do you realize I didn't even get a cell phone until I was 35, and when I left college, I'd never seen a computer. So
I didn't get one until I was 22.
So what does a Yelp review mean to you and your generation?
Well, I think it means more in the States because Yelp is more widely used in the States. There's more users, more people are going to be going to it as a platform, as a means to find a certain business. Now, I don't know exactly what the analytics of it are when it comes to dentists. With Google, it's easier to determine that, as you've discussed previously in other podcasts, which I found was fascinating because you could locally look and it's like, oh, who's looking for cosmetic dentist or dental emergency, or I have a toothache, that sort of thing, in a specific geography. Yelp, I'm not really sure how that works. I don't know how relevant it would be for dental businesses, but certainly in the restaurant and hospitality industry, Yelp is a huge influence on how millennials choose which businesses to go to for the first time, because they don't know where to go, and if they don't know anybody to get a word of mouth recommendation, they're either going to go to Google or Yelp.
And what do you think for 30 and under is more popular, Yelp or Google, for if you were 30 and under?
I'm going to guess Yelp. It's really hard to. It's really I really don't know.
Yelp starts with Y, and my generation had Yellow Pages. I wonder if Yelp is the new Yellow Pages.
That could very well be it. But in terms of Google, and if I'm speaking to the odd 50-year-old that might be listening to this podcast, Google reviews is going to be super important for anybody looking for a dentist that is too afraid. Nowadays there's no more Yellow Pages, so you can't call around and see where to go. And the type of questions they would ask is like, how much would a clean cost, or how much does an extraction cost? I don't know what a new patient's thinking, or they might be thinking, I'm new to the area, I just want to get I just want to establish dental home, what's that going to entail? They don't know what questions to ask, and so they're going to go on Google, look up dentist Awatuki, and see who comes up first. Who's got the reviews, and they're more likely to listen to testimonials from people that have purchased from the business, your customers and patients, and see, oh, okay, a lot of people are saying good things about this place, I'll go to there.
Well, I like it when you walk into the post office. My picture's always on the wall. right there.
There you go.
America's top. They always have the top 10 most wanted, and there I am right there. And hey, I want to ask you another question. A friend of mine, started the Eco Dentistry Org, Fred and Ina podcast, but I went to their seminar in Utah up on Provo at Sundance, where Robert Redford owns that, and these kids were telling me that for 1,300 people that they would start advertising their dental offices eco-friendly. One guy was in San Fran and managed to get off the grid, and he had 30 and under patients traveling an hour to go to their office. Do you think your generation is more sensitive to not leaving a big environmental footprint and is more likely to patronize someone who recycles and uses solar and all that kind of stuff?
Absolutely, absolutely. That could be a very, very powerful marketing tool to us younger folks. And basically, all it takes is for you to get them in, turn them into, impress them, make them happy, give them what they want, and then they'll be loyal patients for life. They're going to recommend it to their friends.
I have heard so many dentists crushing it with trying to have their unique selling proposition, not be implant or treating the worn dentition or cosmetic dentistry, but being eco-friendly. So I had a consultant come out to my office to how could I get off the grid, and he, because I'm in Phoenix. I said I would like, I'm in the desert. I'd like to get all solar panels and go off the grid. And he came back and he said, dude, he said you haven't made one intelligent decision below the ceiling. He says your ceiling 100% solar couldn't even run your dental office because you don't have any of the basic stuff of like when you leave a room, the light shuts off automatically or this and that. He told me, so he gave me a big old laundry list of things to do to get smart under the grid. But I thought of a trick. Our solar, our power company, you can actually buy electricity specifically from a solar field, and it costs a little more. Oh, yeah. So I could buy my electricity only for a solar, and then I could advertise my office is run 100% off solar energy. Now I'm 53. You think 30 and unders would like that? Do you think they'd pick up on that?
Absolutely. Yeah. They're all weird in what they want. Even I'm trying to still figure that out.
And is it also, are they all going to be tooth colored? Is amalgam and gold dead?
Because of you, Howard, like amalgams come a lot more into my present consciousness. I'm seeing, amalgams that last 20, 30 years, and we take them out and put composite. I haven't said composite since I left America.
What do you call it? What do you call it there?
Composite.
Composite.
Now, don't even get me started on tooth numbering. But, we'll put composite in there. It looks all pretty. And then, within 3-4 years' time, it's looking kind of average. And then it takes you a while before that probe is really catching onto the edges when you say, this doesn't feel right. Let's just open it up. And just like you say, it's just mush underneath.
I know. I mean, you go from something metal that's bacterial static. I mean, every hygienist uses sodium, stannous fluoride. Yeah. And it's the tin, and it's the half mercury, the other half silver, zinc, copper, tin. It's the tin ions flying out of there that are so bacterial static, and then you replace it with an inert plastic because it's tooth colored. And and these older dentists take out these silver fillings. Well, there was scuzz underneath it. I'm sorry, I'm a doctor. Is scuzz a life form? Can you tell me what speed? Has anybody gone through the DNA of scuzz? I mean, that's just crazy. Yeah, I think dentistry's gone backwards in longevity. Absolutely. I want to also ask you a cultural difference. It seems like countries closer to Japan use more glass ionomer than countries farther away from Japan. Is that true? And what are your thoughts on that?
I can't generalize. I could just say that in America, I'd hardly use glass ionomer, but in Australia, where we were taught, yes, we use quite a bit of glass ionomer. I personally use quite a lot of resin-modified glass ionomers. And I can't give you any sort of like generalizations, but I cut into an old large composite buildup and was very, very pleased to find that the previous dentist had placed a glass ionomer base underneath, and there was no decay under it, which was brilliant.
Because it has bacterial static properties.
Yes.
I mean, why
Yeah.
do Americans not get that? And you'll see what drives me crazy is they'll say, "Well, I'm a cosmetic dentist," and they'll get a 78-year-old lady with totally blown Alzheimer's, doesn't even
Yeah.
know the names of her children, and takes out and puts class 5 composites on her for root surface decay on a woman who
Yep.
doesn't even brush her teeth. It's
Yep.
like, really, really. I
Yeah.
mean, an amalgam there would have lasted 5 years. A glass
Yep.
ionomer probably would have lasted 4, and her gosh darn cosmetic dentistry class 5s in a dental office where a doctor doesn't even have anything but inert plastic fillings because he's a cosmetic dentist, and in 1 year they're mush.
Yep. Yep. Mush. It's sad. It's tragic. But glass armor certainly does have a place in restorative and preventive dentistry. Yeah, it's. I wish it had more headway in America because it's a really good product to use.
So, who are the glass ionomer product champion dentists down there that are talking about that?
Oh, I wish I could tell you some names.
Well,
I don't know.
if you run into some that are rocking hot in that area, basically any Australian talent that you think would be a good podcast, if you could turn
Yeah,
me on to
sure.
that, because Americans love anybody with an Australian accent. Take any product you want and just advertise it with an Australian accent, and it'll sell. Um, so also you've done some training with the very famous Derek Mahony in orthodontics.
Yeah.
He's
Yep.
huge in Africa, in the Middle East, and Europe.
Yep.
And so, talk about Derek Mahony.
The great and powerful Derek Mahony. He's fantastic. He just wants to help GPs get their foot in the door with being able to do some orthodontic cases in their offices. But like you've said previously, anybody with some ortho training will be able to recognize orthodontic problems earlier and be able to refer more appropriately. So it works out for everybody. Patients are able to stay in the GP's office for their orthodontics, and problems are screened and diagnosed earlier so that they can have the appropriate help they need. Sometimes, and you could also recognize certain things that you can't do and be more likely to refer those out to the orthodontist. So everybody wins in the end, especially the patients who, are presenting with these problems. One of the other things that Derek Mahoney just makes us more aware of, that a lot of I don't know if it's just hype. Because some people would argue it's hype. Others, I believe in it. But a lot of jaw size problems are really secondary to airway problems, which then increased my awareness about the role of ENTs and how it can be very, very related to growth and development in dentistry. So that's really increased my referrals over to the local ENTs and also the sleep physicians.
Okay, so give us some low hanging fruit. What's going on with the patient when you send someone to an ENT? I bet you 90% of everyone listening to this podcast has never referred a patient to an ENT. I'm guessing.
Okay.
I have no
All
data
right.
to back that up. It's a gut feeling, but my
Mm-hmm.
gut is about 50 pounds, so my gut feeling should be worth a lot more than yours.
You're also able to move that gut for triathlons and Ironmans, which I think is absolutely amazing, Howard. What an inspiration!
My goal is to be the oldest, fattest Iron Man.
You'll get that, buddy. All right. So in terms of ENT, here's a take-home message for all
And explain what
the
ENT is.
listeners.
That's an ear, nose, and throat.
Ear, nose, and throat, or otolaryngorhinologist. Allergies on the rise. A lot of kids in first world developed nations are just super sensitive to the pollens, the grasses, the dusts, and as a result, the airways, the nose gets blocked up, adenoids can grow, tonsils can grow. So what are things that we dentists can do to basically screen for airway problems? And what I've learned is, when you see a kid that's 6, 7, 8 years old, if they just look like really flat-faced, not the most attractive kids, you look into their mouth, crowding already, and you know that they're going to have orthodontic problems, I invite you to just get them to open really wide. Get them to stick their tongue out. Get them to say, ah. And if that soft palate doesn't move, there's something pushing up behind it, and that's probably the adenoids. You also get them to stick their tongue out, so you can get a really, really good look with their tonsils. One really, really good way to do that is making sure that you've got yourself a little headlamp so you can see down there. And if those tonsils are just about kissing, then you could open up the conversation with mom and dad. It's like, does little Johnny snore? Oh yeah, all the time. And, with snoring, you'll usually see some tooth wear, erosion, those sorts of problems. And so I think we might have an airway problem with little Johnny. And, when you display that you are aware of fields outside of teeth, and especially if the ENTs are able to say, oh, yeah, Dr. Howard was spot on. We do have an airway problem. We need to get this sorted out. And the parents are thinking, oh, shit, this Howard guy really knows what he's doing, and he knows outside of dental. He knows outside of dentistry. This is a really smart guy. We trust him. We're gonna keep our family with him. We're gonna send friends and family to him.
Perfect. I mean, that is just so true. I mean, what you just said was poetry. I mean, it really was poetry. So, talk about the Derek Mahony course. Was it 4 3-day courses? Was it a week? What was the Continuum like? Details of it.
It's a 2-year mini residency where you meet up for a weekend and one clinical day where you observe at one of his offices. You get to go over his cases, go over the photographs, go over models, go over diagnosis, and go over the techniques, throughout. Because with orthodontics, it's not like a single implant procedure. It's not like a single crown. It's an ongoing process. But the most important thing, obviously, is diagnosis, knowing exactly what the problem is, where you're starting. Do we have a growing child versus an adult? And where is everything located? Derek's course is excellent. It's evidence-based. It's going to really increase and improve your awareness of what's going on in the orthodontic world. Now, I'm going to get a lot of flack from this from a lot of orthodontists listening. But it doesn't, it's not going to make you a cowboy. If anything, it's going to it'll get you thinking. It'll give you a lot more knowledge. And that's what is really, really brilliant about the course. Derek himself is a charismatic speaker, very charismatic. He's a funny guy, very similar to you, Howard. And he can be a bit controversial too, which makes him funny.
Yeah, I've had dinner with him a couple times at a restaurant looking out at the Opera House. What is the Ari?
The Aria, yeah.
The Aria,
yeah.
ARIA, which is the name of a casino where we had a county meeting. That's a high note in an opera or something like that. Because it was across from the opera, I forgot. But yeah, I think I think he was amazing. But what I like the most about it, he walks his talk. I mean, he has 4 different orthodontic offices in Sydney that all have 4 or 5 orthodontists or something like that.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, if you sit there and say, well, the guy doesn't know what he's talking about, dude, he has 4 or 5 of the largest orthodontic offices. I mean, he's a machine.
He's an absolute machine. So he's a world-class educator as well, just like you, just flying all over the world, just trying to just teach people.
Yeah.
Teach people, help them, give them knowledge, give them knowledge. Knowledge is power.
So I only got you for a minute and a half. My brand's an hour. I got a minute and a half. What would your close be? Would it be to give a little bit of a close to the kids, what they should do, and to the old guys, what they should do to attract guys like you? Because I would make a mint. I mean, I'm listening to you thinking, damn, I wish you'd gone to Phoenix. I would have made a fortune off you. So give them, a lot of kids are just coming out of school. What should they do their first few years?
Okay, kids, first few years, do as much clinical dentistry as you can. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Realize that you've made mistakes, learn from them, get over it. It's not the end of the world to make mistakes. In school, you get penalized, you get punished for making mistakes. Don't make a mistake. You have to get it right. You have to get it right. You have to get it right. It doesn't always happen that way. There's no perfection in dentistry. You just have to do the best that you can, and that's what everybody does. One of the other mistakes I've made early on is, foo-fooing other people's work. You've got no idea under what circumstances that previous work was done. You cannot judge what other people have done, because there's going to be work that you see 5 years later. It's like, holy crap, I did that. So, don't judge. I made the mistake of judging. I've had a big fat slice of humble pie. Not doing it. And for the older generation that's looking to hire these younger millennials, just realize that, we want mentorship. We want to be able to learn from you guys. We want to learn from your experience. We want a team-based environment that's going to be conducive to learning and growing and supporting of each other. And so if you've got high staff turnover, more than likely the problem is looking at you in the mirror.
And you know what? I wish someday you would make it. We have a special once a year issue called the new grad issue, where it just
Yep.
goes to all the kids in dental school and just graduated, a couple of years out. You should make a new grad course, online C course on Dental Town. You really should. You should make a new grad course and it should be called for the first 10 years out of dental school, and for the old guys wanting to hire a young kid, the new grad, the circle of life. The
Circle of
old
life.
guys got one foot in the grave, and
Yep.
the one kids are just coming out of the dental school placenta, and and you should do a course to merge that deal, because I really enjoyed you for an hour.
Thank you. Thank
And
you so much, Howard.
and email me, howard@dentaltown.com, and I'm going to provide my brother Paul, because you guys are the
Yep.
same age. You're both adorable.
Yep.
He's
We'll
my
hang out.
favorite
We'll hang
person
out.
in life. And then next time I
Yep.
come visit my brother, I'll go out and have a beer.
Yeah, for sure. That sounds like a plan, Howard. Look forward to you coming back.
And tell Derek I said hi, and tell him thanks for always. Every time I come into town, he always takes me to dinner at the Aria, and he's just a cool guy.
I will. You're awesome, Howard. Thank you. Thank you for everything you've done in dentistry.
Thank you, buddy. You're too kind. Have a great day.
Thanks. You too.